Yo guys, welcome back to the Blue Podcast with me, Tom, and Ben. How you doing, mate?
Good, thanks.
And today we got an extra special guest. We got Chris from the Entertainah Talkin sport over from America.
Thank you guys for having me on, man. I appreciate it, man. Anytime I get a chance to talk sports with anybody, I welcome the opportunity.
Brilliant. Well, you are our first, as I said before the podcast, you are our first American sports channel we've had on, and me and Ben are going to have to do a lot of learning today about the sport. Well, firstly, thank you guys all recently for the support on the channel. Greatly appreciated. Slowly creeping towards that 700 subscriber mark. Check out the merch, which me and Ben never wear. We link in the description as always, and check out our Twitter at the Blue Podcast One and Instagram at the Blue Podcast One. And Chris's channel will be in the description as well. Before we get into anything, Chris, do you want to let our audience know what it is you do over there?
Yeah, I've been on YouTube for about a little over 2 years now, probably about 2.5 years now, and talk about the teams that I love, mainly the New York Giants team right there, the football team, probably about 95% of my content. But yeah, I talk sports. I do live play-by-play on my teams, mainly the Knicks and the Giants, and I have a blast doing it. Just surpassed, what am I? I don't even know what I'm at now. I think a little over 33,000 subscribers. So slowly and surely growing.
I think you're actually our biggest guest on then, if you're at 33K. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No worries. I checked out your channel a bit over the last week since I contacted you. And do you want to explain kind of what kind of videos you do to our audience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically, any breaking news, I'm going to talk about it. I also, especially in the off season with football, I try to dive into a lot of mock drafts. I don't know if you guys know what that are, if you're not football fans, but off season content. Now you have free agency coming up, you have the draft, but I try to keep people informed. I have a ton of people. I don't know if that's how you found my channel, but I have a ton of people from the UK, from overseas that follow my channel that want to learn more about the Giants. They don't get the same coverage over there that we get in the States. So I would, I'd say maybe about 10% of my base is probably from overseas, because here you get more coverage with football.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a lot on Sky Sports now. American football in the evenings on the weekend, I see. And sometimes if I just leave the TV playing, it will just play in the background.
Yeah, they're also trying to sort of break into the UK market with playing at Wembley and stuff like that. So yeah, you hear about it now and again.
Yeah. How do you guys like the sport of football? From American football, from what I should say. How do you guys like it? Because I know they're trying to expand in the UK. They have a game. They have multiple games every year. They usually have 3 or 4 games every year. Yeah.
No. I think I was bigger into it when I was about 14, 15, because I went to London for they did those big events before the games in London, where they had all the old cheerleaders doing stuff and games. It was all in Trafalgar Square, I think it was. And I got backstage to meet some cheerleaders, which was nice. If you do check out my Facebook, you'll see 14-year-old Tom with a massive mop standing next to some cheerleaders, which is just funny. But I think to be fair, most of my American football knowledge comes from Madden, to be honest, which is a bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
How about you, Ben?
I mean, I have no idea what's going on. But I mean, I can say this, that because my brother went over to America, to Seattle last year, and he watched the Super Bowl and he said it was cracking, he loved it. Because I think he watched it in a bar and it was the atmosphere was great, and he likened it to in terms of football or soccer, in watching the Champions League final over here. It's the European competition. He likened it to that, with the sort of the spectacle of it. Obviously, it's a bit more obviously with the halftime show and stuff in America, but it's still a similar vibe to it.
No, yeah, and it's quite, but especially isn't it that the halftime adverts are millions or something ridiculous when it comes to the Super Bowl adverts? Is that right?
Oh yeah, half the people watch the game. Half the people that watch the game watch it for the commercials. It's a lot of people just watch it because it's an event. This is actually, if you're going to watch American football for the first time, this Super Bowl is going to be really good. The best quarterback, maybe the two most famous quarterbacks going at it, Pat Mahomes and Tom Brady. It's going to be a great game.
Well,
Yeah.
when you spoke about drafts earlier in terms of American football, my mate was trying to explain it to me last night, and I was kind of figuring it out. The way I understood it, do you know about FIFA, the football game, the soccer game?
Yeah. I have played it before, not in a while though.
It feels a bit like Ultimate Team in that
Well, they have
sense.
it. They have it on Madden. That.
Yeah, so it's on Madden as well. Yeah, so that's my how I got my head around it, to be honest. But so I came up with a couple of questions for the Knicks and the Giants, but we don't know much about the Mets because don't know much about baseball. Do you want to go into those so we can maybe like obviously elaborate on things and go on tangents? I'm sure.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Well, as we started with the NFL, we might as well start with the Giants. Do you remember your first game, either on TV or live for the Giants?
My first game, I didn't go to my first game probably till I was at least 13 or 14. But in terms of watching it on TV, I mean, I started watching football when I was like 5 years old. Actually, the first game that I remember is not even a Giants game. It was a first game I remember for the Giants is the Super Bowl, 1990. I was 6 years old. Giants versus the Buffalo Bills. Giants ended up winning by 1 point, 20-19. The Bills missed a field goal with no time left. Had they made it, the Giants would have lost. So it's one of the most memorable Super Bowls ever. I remember my dad was at the end of the game. He was so nervous he had to go to the bathroom. He couldn't watch the last play. So that's my memory from that game. I was 6 years old. I don't remember the game vividly, but I remember that, the tension in the waning moments.
Do you have a favorite game that you've seen?
Oh yeah, it's got to be the Super Bowl 2008, Giants versus the Patriots. The Patriots were 18-0 that year. No team in the history of football has ever gone 19-0, and the Giants were a team that just snuck into the playoffs. They were 10-6. And we were huge underdogs. We were like 13-point underdogs. And a lot of people say it's the biggest upset in the history of American sports. The Giants beat the undefeated Patriots. I think it was 17-14 in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, that's definitely my favorite moment as a Giant fan.
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit bittersweet that because my team in terms of NFL is the Patriots, because I remember. I think I've explained this in a previous podcast. I picked it because I was playing Madden when I was younger, and I support Chelsea, which is a blue soccer team over here.
Yeah,
and I found the first blue team I found was Patriots. So I was like, okay, that's my team now. And I've kind of
that's funny you say that, because I ask my subscribers, because I have subscribers from all over the world, some from New Zealand, and they tell me the same thing. I ask, how did you become a Giant fan? Oh, they said I fell in love with the color, with the jersey. That's how they pick it from Madden. They play Madden. Some people fell in love because of Odell Beckham, things like that. But Madden, ironically enough, brought a lot of fans from overseas to the NFL.
No, yeah, that definitely did. Ben, did you play Madden much?
No, never.
I never played it. It's a game I have a nostalgia with a lot.
No, I don't think you realize how sort of out of touch I am with American football. Like you have like a little bit of knowledge. I'm just like, I know that like the highlight show is on at like 12 at night here.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that shows like, because when we're talking about trying to break into the UK market, like they're trying, but they're putting it on when everyone's in bed. So like, no one's gonna watch it. They need to put it on earlier, because I probably would watch it.
The issue is though, don't some of the games not finish until it's like 12 o'clock at night in the UK?
Maybe, but they could put it on the day after, like
maybe,
put in more prime time spot sort of thing.
Yeah, but then again, think about the amount of English fans that if English football was swapped for some.
Oh no! I don't mean swapping it. I mean like when they put Match of the Day on at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Put it on straight after at 11 or something, but they leave it until like 12, 1-ish or something in the morning. It's like, I'm not gonna but I mean it is something that, because I remember last year that I did try and I did watch it because it was on BBC. Was it? Los Angeles were in the final, was it?
Los Angeles Rams versus I think it was 2 years ago against the Patriots.
Yeah. I watched that one, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. then after that, I was like,
That was like the worst game you could ever watch for the first time because
yeah,
it was so low scoring. It was
yeah,
like there was no offense at all. There were no points. That was one of the worst Super Bowls ever. Because it was a close game, but there was no points at all.
yeah. I was like, well, this is interesting, and like you say, not much happened. And but then after that, like I said, it was always on at like 12 at night and stuff. And you're just like, if it was on at another time, I'd probably watch it, but I just can't be bothered staying up. So that's basically where I'm at with it. But yeah,
I think with English fans though, it's a lot of they'd have looked up big hits on YouTube for NFL and just watched like so many people talk about watching clips of people just getting absolutely destroyed on YouTube, and that's how they kind of start falling in love with the game as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a violent sport for sure.
At least they're allowed to do that, you know.
Well, yeah, we spoke just before the podcast. I said if Chris had any questions about football, because obviously we are a mainly football-based channel. You said that you don't like how footballers just kind of fall on the floor, right?
Well, the one rule that I want to start with that, and I do watch. We call it soccer, but I watch football, especially during the World Cup. And when I'm bored, I'll turn on one of them, but I don't get big into it. I know some of the the big teams, but like Milan and the Chelsea. I know some of the bigger teams, but I don't really watch it. I watch the World Cup. I'll get into that. But one of the things that I don't get. I don't understand it. I know that they have stoppage time, but I don't like that the clock never stops because I always feel when I'm watching a soccer game that the time that they spend stop never equates to the stoppage time that they throw back on. Because they'll throw like 5 minutes of stoppage time, but I'll watch the guy celebrate scoring a goal for 7 minutes. And when it goes out of bounds, it'll take another. Like, I feel like, why not just stop the clock? Like every other sport I watch, they stop the clock. I don't understand that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not alone. Sometimes that you're there like, oh yeah, they probably had like 3 minutes on. The board comes up and it's like 7 minutes of added time. You're like, huh? Where'd they got that from? They just pulled it out of their ass from somewhere, like, you know.
My dad says it all the time. Like, why do they like when there's a massive injury, just stop the clock? Why keep on putting the time on and on and on? Because it means that when you get to, let's say there's 2 massive injuries in the second half.
Yeah.
So 90 minutes, you're thinking, okay, we've held out for 90 minutes. Let's say it's 1-0, very close game. And you've held out for 90 minutes, and then there's a 10-minute added time. You're like,
still got 10 minutes to go. Yeah.
I don't like that.
Even then, they might say, "Oh, we're adding 3 minutes on," and it'll be 90 plus 7, and they're still playing because the ref's not checked his watch or like decided to add another minute on because there was a small injury or something, a small break.
The other thing is, if you know ahead of time, you may change your substitutions differently. Like if you know there's going to be 10 minutes of stoppage time, you may bring in your guy a little bit later than you would have. I know, that's the other thing I don't understand about soccer. Baseball's the same way, but once you make a substitution in soccer, the guy can't come back in the game, right? Isn't that the way it works?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I like that rule either. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's only just been announced today that they're testing out concussion substitutions, aren't they? So players who get a concussion can go off, and then when they've recovered, if they have recovered, can come back on it. Is that right?
I think also you're only allowed 3 subs. I'm pretty sure if the person gets concussed, you get a free sub for that player as well.
Right. Okay.
I'm pretty sure. So that kind of like.
You'd like to test that.
Yeah, because obviously there was, I think people have said in the past, why not, if someone gets injured, you're allowed a free substitute for that person. But then obviously everyone would fake getting injured if they wanted to be subbed off, and then they could still have 3 substitutes. So they couldn't allow that rule, which is why I think they're quite cautious with this rule, because it could be kind of used, but at the same time, it'd be very, very difficult to pretend you've just been punched in the head and got concussed.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I'm baffled about at the moment is, and I know a lot of managers, in football at the moment, all the top leagues except the Premier League are allowing 5 substitutions. The Premier League are not allowing it, and I don't know why. It's basically because they have to have a majority vote, and the lower teams are rejecting it because they're saying that it'll give advantage to the higher teams because they've got better squads. But it's about for me, it's more, I mean, obviously me and Tom are going to be a little bit more like willing with this because we both support better teams, so we've got better squads.
We've already got the best 2 squads in the league, to be honest.
But like it's more about protecting the players in my head, but because they're allowing it in literally every other competition except the Premier League. It's very, very odd. But
one rule, and I don't know if it's in the Premier League, but one rule that I like about soccer that from what I've heard. Okay, so for example, in baseball, you have a major league team, and then you have a minor league. You have a minor league affiliates. You have single A, double A, triple A. Those guys, they train, and then and then if they're good enough, they make it to the major league team. The thing that I like about soccer, from what I've heard, in certain leagues at least, the bottom 3 teams essentially get sent down to the minor leagues, and the top 3 teams get sent up to the major leagues, which I think that's pretty cool. And I actually like that.
Yeah. So you have so in England, what you do is similar because it's in England. You have the Premier League, which is the top league. You have Champions League, First Division, Second Division.
Champions League, Second Division.
Championship. Sorry, Premier League Championship. Sorry, there's two. There's the Champions League, which is completely separate. That's completely separate. So Championship, Division 1, Division 2, and so the bottom 3 teams of the Premier League get moved down to the Championship, and the bottom 3 teams of the Championship move down to the Division 1, etc. But the top 2 teams of the Championship get an immediate promotion, and then it's the 4 teams below first and second in that league. They do like a playoff. So 2 teams play each other. 2 teams play each other, and then there's like a final where the winner of that gets to go into the Premier League, and it's actually the highest valued cup competition in the entire football soccer.
You love sprinkling that fact in you.
I like that though. That's one thing that I like that you guys do. I like that. It's cool.
Yeah, it's usually because you find that the top 2 are always a lot, like quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but further ahead than the next 4 teams. So because the next 4 teams are quite close, they do a playoff.
It makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
I have another question. Actually, I always get questions when I think. Do you guys have a salary cap?
No.
Okay. So do you know what a salary cap is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically in football and basketball, they have a salary cap to try to keep it competitive, to try to make it so every team has a chance.
They have it in rugby, which I relatively follow.
Yeah. Well, baseball doesn't have a salary cap. It's very capitalistic, but football and basketball have a salary cap, which I like because I think it promotes competitive balance.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of, a team that's really bad, the next year you may have an opportunity where in a form, something like baseball, and I'm assuming soccer as well, the Yankees are always at the top because they have the most money to spend.
I get that, but I think with football it changes a lot. Well, there's normally a big.
I think with football that is also true, but because we're talking about the promotion and relegation, it does allow for teams to break into that elite.
Yeah.
But like I say, in general, football is similar because the elite clubs they'll bring more money in, therefore have more money to spend, and then they'll have more clout in terms of advertisement stuff, more money in. They'll spend more money on players, high profile players, more advertisement, more money in. So
Yeah, so the top teams stay at the top.
Yeah.
It does change a lot. So for example, I think from the 90s till late 2000s, 2010 time, Manchester United were the biggest club in England. And now it's probably Liverpool and Manchester City. So it does.
Yeah, well, you're saying it changes a lot, but who's the top 6?
Yeah,
that doesn't change, right? So he's trying to give football a bonus point here, but it's not working.
Hey, look at the league table right now, mate.
It does change, but the top 6 is still City, Liverpool, United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham. Doesn't change. And but Leicester are trying. So this is the exception. Leicester a few seasons ago were in the Championship and got promoted, won the league, which was completely against the odds.
Yeah.
And now we're trying to break into that elite set of clubs. So that's the exception between soccer and like say baseball. Yeah. Like it does change who's at the top, but those 6 teams stay the same.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing in baseball. Once in a while, they had a terminology called Moneyball, which I don't want to get too much into it because you guys don't know much about baseball, but basically it was for like small market teams. They found ways to try to find talent that big market teams wouldn't be evaluating players in a certain way to try to even it out a little bit. And you had small market teams, you had big market teams. And once in a while, you'd have a small market team that competes and almost wins a World Series. But much like you're saying with soccer, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, those teams are always at the top. We're always competitive.
Yeah. So
there is a financial fair play rule now with soccer, which is you can only spend a certain amount of net spend.
You're only allowed to spend what you make.
Yeah.
You're only allowed to spend what you get in profit. So it's in order to they say it's to protect teams from going bankrupt, but also it doesn't allow the teams lower down the division to invest as much.
Right.
Meaning so the argument is it doesn't let people go bankrupt, but also the counter argument is it doesn't let teams make as much money.
You slightly cut off there, Ben.
Oh,
you're back.
What did you get? What did I get up to?
I heard most of it. Yeah,
right. So basically, that's the argument because, like I said, I mean, there in the Prem. There's in terms of TV rights, the money in TV rights is bonkers. It's like billions. So even the bottom teams get loads of money, which is why it's so people don't care about the domestic competitions because they want to stay in the Premier League because you get more money from that. But in terms of like the spending now, back 10 years ago, top clubs were spending 30-40 million on a player. Now top clubs are spending 70-80 million on a player, and the bottom clubs are spending 30 and 40 million on a player.
That's how much that's per year. They get 70-80 million dollars.
That's just on one player.
On one player, it's baffling.
Wow.
Chelsea bought one player for 45 million, one player for 45.
That's for 1 year.
No, so that's not including wages. That's just buying one player from one.
Club. That's it. Oh, so the player doesn't get that money. The
other club, yeah.
So they have to pay the club to then take the player. I see. Okay.
And they also give a player a wage, which will be like 100,000 a week or something.
More than that, probably more than that. Yeah, so they're going to be giving them like bonkers money over like 3, 4, 5 years.
There's a player called Bale who played for Real Madrid and basically kind of stopped playing for them because he fell out with the manager. And the club wanted to get rid of him so badly because his wage was 650,000 a week.
It's ridiculous. Is that before tax or after tax?
I can't remember, but still,
it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. And so they wanted to get rid of him so badly that they actually took kind of normally when someone goes on loan to another club, that club will pay their full wages. But Real Madrid wanted to get rid of him so badly that they said they'd pay half of his wages still. So they sent him out on loan to his old club, and they're still paying 300,000 a week. It's just there's so much money.
It's bonkers. It's bonkers.
Wow.
Wow. Is there stuff like that over in America?
Yeah, no, that does happen. You'll have players that they become older, and the team's looking to get rid of them, and they're not as valuable. But they're like. Actually, there's a guy in the Mets. Now that you say it, you can look it up after on YouTube. It's called Bobby Bonilla Day. The Mets were stupid. They were so they wanted to get rid of him so bad, and they were strapped for cash because at the time the Mets owner got involved in a Ponzi scheme, and he now sold the team because he went nearly bankrupt. But they were so strapped for cash that instead of giving him a $5 million payout, they gave him some kind of agreement where they gave him $1 million a year. And with interest, they're still paying him all the way up into the year 2030. So instead of paying him $5 million at once, they ended up paying him about $50 million over the course of 50 years. Because this is going all the way back to 1998, and now they're still paying him up until like 20.
Oh yeah. His Wi-Fi is going.
Wi-Fi is going. I'm going to pause it.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Chris back. We were just talking about the Mets player.
Yeah. No, it's just an insane contract. Any one of your listeners, if they want to get a good laugh, just go on YouTube and type in Bobby Bonilla Day, and it describes it more in detail. But basically, the Mets ended up paying a guy like $35 million instead of paying him $5 million up front.
Bonkers. I mean, this is one of the things that came into my head in terms of sort of when I'm talking about the high-profile clubs buying high-profile players, therefore they get more advertisement, bring more money in. Is Paul Pogba to United? They bought him for 89 million, and they made back that transfer fee in shirt sales within 2 weeks. It was something ridiculous like that. So that's showing the sort of global appeal of United. I mean, I'm a City fan, so you know I don't like him, but it shows the sort of their clout, doesn't it?
Yeah, Ben's a Manchester City fan. And, Pogba went to Manchester United, so obviously there's a bit of a Manchester rivalry there.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean,
that reminds me of when Beckham went to America, played America. One of my mates' dads went to a sports shop, and apparently all of the football shirts there, all of them had Beckham on the back. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah. I remember when he came here. It was a pretty big deal for the MLS. He played for. I didn't watch it really, but it was big when they brought him in. They gave him a lot of money. He played for the LA Galaxy, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how he played, but yeah, when they first brought him in. Yeah, it was a big deal. People were there was a lot of buzz. People were talking about it. They thought that it would help, promote the MLS and get it to grow. I don't know. I don't really feel like the MLS has grown too much, though. One thing I will say, I do think with the younger generation in America, soccer's growing. I do think it's getting more popular. And I think actually the sport I cover, football, is getting less popular. It's still way more popular than soccer, but I do think that because of the concussions, even though, like you said, now there's stories coming out with concussions in soccer due to the headers, but because of the concussions, and there's been movies and documentaries on this with the NFL and how they covered them up for years, and the players, they have CTE and they're really screwed up. I think parents are starting to sway their kids away from playing the sport of football, and I do think soccer. When I talk to the younger generation on my channel, a lot of them get into soccer. Basketball is getting much bigger too. Basketball is really big globally.
I think over here as well it is, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of sports in America, globally it's not even close. Basketball is the biggest. Football is probably the biggest domestically still, but basketball globally in terms of American sports is by far the biggest.
Yeah. No, yeah. One of our mates who was actually on the podcast at first, we made this. He follows a lot of basketball. A lot.
Yeah, I was going to say Beckham was quite successful with the LA Galaxy. He won, I think, 2 MLS or 3 MLSs, MLS Cups or whatever. So, I mean, in terms of from a, like you say, a global audience, it definitely has improved the sort of appeal of MLS because like Beckham going there led to like
you want to follow him. You want to follow him.
Yeah. It led to Gerrard, Lampard, Ibrahimovic, Javier Hernandez. They've all gone to the MLS now.
There was a I don't remember his name. It was like 5 or 6 years ago. The team in New Jersey, the Red Bulls. There was a famous player from France that went there. He was really big. Yeah. Henry or whatever. Yeah, that was his name. Yep. He was really big at the time.
So he went over. Rooney went over to DC recently. Yeah, Ibra to LA. So it's allowed for like those players to see it as a viable option. Obviously they're coming near to the end of the careers, but it's still like it's a
Wi-Fi's not liking us today, is it?
You're good.
Back. Yeah, but they see it as like a decent league to play in now, basically.
No, yeah, definitely. I was going to say it as well, like especially Christian Pulisic, your best American footballer.
I know the name. I don't. I haven't seen him.
Plays for my club, so so I throw that in there as well.
I mean, obviously, I know you're not really as into soccer, but like American like the American national team is producing a lot of good players now.
I hope, because they missed the World Cup last time. The
Yeah.
women are good. The women win almost every time, but the men I root for two teams. I went during the World Cup. Obviously, I root for America, and then I'm more Italian than anything else, so I root for Italy. Both of them World Cup. Both of them.
Yeah.
When does Italy ever miss the World Cup? That's not supposed to happen.
I know. I watched the, because I'm a half Italian, so I watched the playoff when we lost, and I was like, how's this happened? But we've got Mancini, who used to manage City now, and he's a good manager, so hopefully we'll do well next time. But yeah, there's a lot of, like, the American national team are producing a lot of good players, like they're coming over to Europe as well, like Weston McKennie, Rayner at Dortmund, McKennie's at Juventus, Pulisic. Yeah, Zach Steffen plays for us. There's other ones as well who've recently come over to Europe. So I'm not saying they're going to win it, but they should at least get to the quarters.
I think they're going to get better over time, because, like I said, I think with America's youth, I think it's growing. I think it's becoming more popular. And yeah, I always say it all the time. I always say, like, people ask me, they're like, why do you think Americans are so bad at soccer in comparison to the other sports? I said, well, it's because it's like fifth on the totem pole. Like, in this country, everybody wants to play basketball, baseball, football, hockey. If they all wanted to play soccer, we'd be great at soccer. So I do think, as the, like, if LeBron James was a soccer player, Steph Curry was a soccer player, I do think as the younger generations become more attracted to it, I do think it will become more competitive in the men's sport.
Yeah, no, you can definitely see that they've started doing the groundwork for it, at least.
Yeah, they're definitely producing. I was going to ask, actually, so I know, like, again, don't follow it, but do you know anything about sort of the New York MLS teams, like New York City and the Red Bulls?
I know that they added, I don't want a lot, some of my subscribers follow that, actually, but I don't really, but I know they have a couple of New York teams. They have the Red Bulls, and then they added a new team. I don't remember the name, but they played Yankee Stadium, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah. New York City, they're owned by the same people who own Manchester City. So because the people who own City here, they've got like ownership of many clubs around the world. So it's like part of, like, the network, I think. So, like, if they find a good player, they can,
it's almost like a minor league affiliate for you guys.
Yeah. So basically, so, like, they poach him and stuff like that. And if he's good enough to play for us, then we'll bring him in. If he's good enough to play for another team that's maybe slightly lower, they'll play for them. So it's like a little bit of a scouting network sort of thing. So yeah, I think they've got a stake in like 10 clubs around the world. So
wow,
it was 10.
Yeah, it's somewhat ridiculous. They've got England, Belgium, India, America, Uruguay or Argentina. No, Uruguay, China, Japan. I can't remember the other, Australia, and there's one more, but I can't remember it. But that shows you sort of the
That's a lot
investment.
Of different countries.
They don't own all, like, they don't 100% own all of them, but they have at least like over a 50% stake in them. Girona, that's the other one in Spain. So that yeah, so that shows you the investment in the teams around the globe.
Fair enough. Well, we've spoken a lot about one football. Should we start talking about some American football again, as we are trying to educate ourselves with you, Chris?
Yeah.
I was told to ask you, who did you vote for the Pro Bowl? If you did,
who did I vote for the Pro Bowl? I did not vote, to be honest with you. I think I'll tell you who I think deserved it on my team, but the Pro Bowl to me is kind of just like I don't know what your All-Star game is called over there, but the Pro Bowl here is it at this point it's a joke. You're not even allowed to blitz the quarterback, which I don't know if you know what blitzing means, but it means like send extra guys at the quarterback. In the Pro Bowl, you're not even allowed to do it. It's basically like a two-hand touch football game. So It's kind of a glorified event. And the funniest thing about the Pro Bowl, the one player that Giants fans can't stand, Evan Ingram, he led the league in drops this year in terms of drop passes. He's a tight end. He's supposed to catch footballs. Led the league in drop balls. Cost us at least 2 or 3 games. He was one of our Pro Bowlers. And he's one of the guys that Giants fans would never want elected. But in terms of guys from the Giants that I thought were deserving, I thought Jabril Peppers was deserving. I thought Leonard Williams was definitely deserving. He didn't make it. James Bradbury, who I think made it, was deserving. Yeah, those would be some of my guys. Mainly defense. The Giants' offense was like the worst in the league. They were 31st out of 32 teams, but the defense was very good, which was surprising. Most people thought it was going to be the opposite. And yeah, we brought in a new head coach that everybody loves. He got the most out of the defense this year.
Cool. Who would you say your MVP for this season is?
Probably James Bradbury or Leonard Williams, who are on the defensive side of the football.
Cool.
I noticed you guys came second in the NFC East, even though you won 6 in 10. How did that make you feel?
Well, you know what? A lot of Giants fans, they go into the season. On my channel, I try to be realistic and go into the season with realistic expectations. The Giants are kind of a team. They have a rich tradition. They've won 4 Super Bowls, but they've been really down in the dumps since their last Super Bowl in 2012. And they brought a new general manager in 2018, and he completely blew up the team in 2019 because they had guys, like you were saying, guys with bad contracts, older veterans, and they got rid of all of them. So when you do that, you start from scratch, you bring in younger players, you start from the bottom. You gotta slowly improve as a football team. So the year before, we had a rookie quarterback, Daniel Jones. We won 4 games against weak competition. We won 4-12 with a soft schedule. So going into the year, if we won 6 games, I was going to be happy. We had a much harder schedule, and that's what happened. The Giants actually showed, even though their record may not indicate it, they were 6-10. They showed a lot of promise and hope for the future. And I think a lot of Giants fans are in love with Joe Judge, who's the new head coach. But yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing that our division winner, I think it was a record. I think it was the worst or second worst record in the history of the NFL to win a division. 7-9 was the NFC East winner, the Washington football team. So that was embarrassing. But from a Giants fan's perspective, I was actually encouraged with this year. I think we're headed down the right path.
Cool. I've been asked to ask, have you been following the college drafts? And who do you think you'll pick?
Yeah. It's tough to say who right now because we're picking 11th. So there's so many, guys who may or may not fall to us. And the NFL draft is completely unpredictable. But, the guys that people have their eyes on as Giants fans, we need a wide receiver. Like I said, our offense last year was the second worst in all of football to 32 teams. And a big major reason for it is we didn't have weapons. Obviously, we traded away Odell Beckham, who I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with. He's a big name. A couple of years ago, we haven't replaced him yet. And there's a number of wide receivers in this year's draft class that people are excited about. Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle, who is ridiculous. The guy ran a 4.25 40, which he runs 40 yards in 4.25 seconds. That's really fast. He's a very promising prospect. The other guy's a tight end who is kind of like a hybrid. He could play both the tight end or wide receiver. His name's Kyle Pitts out of Florida. He's 6'6", and he's a monster. So those are the 4 guys I got my eyes on. If we're going defense, Micah Parsons is a guy a lot of people have talked about, along with there's a couple of cornerback prospects who I really like. I hammer that home on my channel all the time. We need to improve the cornerback spot. Caleb Farley is really good out of Virginia Tech, and Patrick Surtain is a really good prospect also. So those are the names I'm looking at.
And do you think you could run 40 yards in 4.2 seconds?
No, probably about 8 seconds.
That's what I was asking Ben because he's oh, he's frozen. Oh dear.
He's got a nice smile. He's got a nice smile when he freezes.
He's got a nice smile. Yeah. Go on. Do you think you could run?
I don't think I've ever seen it. No. But I like to think I'd run it quick, but not that fast.
Fair enough. Well, you spoke about getting a new QB. I was going to ask you what you thought about Daniel Jones, obviously your current one.
Oh, that's a tough one. Half the Giant fan base wants him executed. They want him off the team immediately because he struggled. Yeah. And it's what comes with young quarterbacks. Like Eli Manning. I'm assuming you've maybe heard of him. He's probably that's the guy whose jersey I'm wearing. He's one of the greatest Giants of all time. His first 3 years in the league, he was horrible, and a lot of Giants fans wanted to run him out of town. They wanted to move on. They wanted to get a new quarterback. The quarterback position, a lot of times it takes time to learn and improve and get better. And it's also a position more so than any other, probably in any sport in America, that's more dependent on the players around you. Because as a quarterback, you need guys to block. You need a strong offensive line. You need wide receivers who could get open. And Daniel Jones, if we're being fair as Giants fans, doesn't have that. This year the offensive line was one of the worst in the league. I think they surrendered the most sacks, which is when your quarterback gets hit. The wide receivers they didn't create any separation. So I'm not sold on Daniel Jones, but I also haven't given up on him yet either. He's still young. He's only 2 years into his career. And I think this offseason, the Giants are going to really go out there and bring in some weapons. And if he still can't get it done after this next year, that's what I'm kind of leaning. It's time to think elsewhere. But I want to give him a fair opportunity. I feel like up until this point, he hasn't been given one. So get him some weapons, let this team mature. And the other thing I want to point out, in football, especially at the quarterback position, the scheme is very important. The type of offense that you run, and I don't want to get too complicated, but you have a West Coast style offense. You have a Air Coryell system, which is what we run. And he was drafted for a specific scheme with Pat Shurmur, who was our previous head coach. They fired Pat Shurmur, and then they brought in the new head coach, Joe Judge. With him came Jason Garrett, who brought a completely different scheme. So I don't know how to equate it to soccer, but think of it of two completely different style offenses. And he had to learn that in his second year, plus the pandemic. So there was no preseason. You didn't have time to learn it. So I knew it was going to be a rocky start for Jones this previous year. Coming back in the same scheme, having learned it in his first year, I think he'll be more comfortable. And then you tack on the fact that you're going to add weapons. I'm thinking and hoping he's going to be much improved this year. But if he's not, then I'm going to go with the mob on this one and say that we probably got to move on. But I'm only giving one more year.
I suppose that's it's basically the equivalent to tactics in football. Like the style of play you want to play. Do you want to play on the counter attack, or do you want to play tiki taka, which is just passing it possession? That basically that sort of thing. And yeah, I think in terms of sort of Daniel Jones, it's like it seems to be a recurring theme just throughout sport. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Young players need to be given time. Like obviously, there comes a point where for the success of the club, you'll have to look at it and think, can we afford to give him that time to get to where we need him to be? But like you say, if you give him one more year, and if he hasn't got there, then yeah, move on. But if he has, then that's to the benefit of the club. So, and there's a equivalent to that sort of with, I guess I'll use Phil Foden, a young player for City. He's been sort of up and coming for the last few years, and our manager's been sometimes there's been questions of the way he's sort of introducing him to the squad, but now he's playing really well, and we're seeing it's paying off. We're seeing the benefits. So it can go either way. Sometimes they just never get to that potential.
Yeah, I think there has to be a cutoff point. And I think the other thing with the NFL, we have a salary cap, right? And the quarterback position obviously eats up more salary cap than any other. And when you're on your rookie deal, you're at a benefit. When you have a quarterback on his rookie deal, it goes for 5 years. You have a benefit because you're not paying him the market rate for what a franchise quarterback goes for. A franchise quarterback, now keep in mind, this is a 53-man roster. A franchise quarterback ties up 20% of your cap on average. 15 to 20% of your cap. So when you have him on your rookie deal, he's only tying up about 3 or 4% of your cap. So you have 96% of your cap to fill out the rest of the roster. So I think that's why Giants fans are a little impatient with Daniel Jones, because they're like, this is year 3 now coming up of the rookie deal. We know we've only got 2 more years of a window here before we actually have to have, if we're going to keep him, he's going to tie up 15 to 20% of our cap, and it's going to be that much more challenging to field a competitive roster. So I think Giants fans look at it like that too. They're like, yeah, we want to be patient, But at the same time, we can't wait forever, because then we're going to come to a crossroads where if we got to pay this guy, if he can't get it done when he's only tying up 4% of the cap, how is he going to get it done when he's tying up 15 to 20% of the cap? So that's why my mindset is give him what he needs this year. And if he doesn't take that big jump, it's time to move on. That's my mindset there with John.
Yeah, I guess the benefit in football is that we don't have the caps, and because he's a younger player, younger players generally you can pay them sort of less. So like a sort of prime of the career player can be over 100K, but a youth player will be like 50K. You know, so
that's quite a lot for a youth player, but yeah,
it's quite a lot. But like you don't have like the price cap, so it doesn't mean that when he gets to a certain age, like that's
that's interesting. You guys keep saying weekly salary, so that's how they break it down in your country. They don't do like for football. Daniel Jones makes like $8 million a year. They don't do the weekly. With soccer, they do it weekly.
Yeah,
I think that's because otherwise you'll be saying tens of millions. People will be like, "What the hell? This is ridiculous. Too much money."
Yeah, it's spinning it.
Yeah, just so they're making it seem better.
Yeah. It was brainwashed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Should we move on to some basketball? Because again, I played it at school, but never really followed it, to be honest. But good 3-pointer, I felt like I was when I was nice and small. Do you know, again, some of these questions are going to be slightly similar, but do you remember your first Knicks game?
Yeah. Again, if your listeners want to see a different style of basketball, and if they're basketball fans, they've probably watched it. Go back and watch the early '90s Knicks. Love that team, and that's when I grew up. 7, 8 years old. Basketball now, they've completely changed the rules. You're not allowed to hand check. Basically, what a hand check, basically what you could do back in the 80s and 90s, when you were defending somebody, you were allowed to put your hands on the offensive player, which would kind of give you a gauge as to what he may be doing, whether he's going to go right, whether he's going to go left. In today's NBA, you can't do that. So it gives a tremendous advantage to the offensive player because it's much harder to defend a player when you can't do that. Back in the 90s, it was a completely different game. People used to rough you up. It got very physical. And that's the style of basketball that I liked. And those New York Knicks teams in the early 90s, I say to this day, between all the teams I root for, the New York Knicks between like 92 and 95, 96 were my favorite team I've ever rooted for. They were a blue collar team. They used to beat down their opponents physically. And that's when I first started getting into basketball. Those were the teams I loved. Patrick Ewing, Derek Harper, Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, John Starks. Those 90s Knicks teams were fantastic.
That reminds me a lot of, I guess, what me and Ben actually have spoken a lot about on the podcast is how football's become a non-contact sport pretty much as well. Because back when I think me and Ben first started watching football in the early 2000s, people would fly into tackles. There'd be rivalries between players, and you'd get people sent off in the big derbies because people would just go fly hurting into people. And nowadays it's
it comes from that. It comes for when I've thought about it. It comes from that sort of competitiveness. So everyone's always trying to get that edge. Yeah. So as they keep on pushing that and pushing that and pushing that, the rules are going to slightly tweak until it's a different, well, not a different game, but you can't do the things that would give you an edge. So but then in the same breath, you were saying before we started that you can't stand the diving in football.
Yeah,
and that comes from the competitiveness because they're trying to get an advantage because they know if you don't dive, the referee's not going to give it sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing in basketball. It's called a flop in basketball. Yeah. It's just much more, I guess, like obvious in soccer, where but basketball do the same thing. They actually made a rule in the NBA where you could get a technical foul. I don't know, you probably don't know what that is, but it's like basically when you get fouled in the NBA, you get 2 shots, you get 2 free shots from the free throw line. A technical foul is when you get 1 free shot plus you retain the ball. So they made a rule where if you get caught flopping, you get a technical foul, but they never really institute it. Players still do it. But in soccer, to me, yeah, I watch the game. I'm like, what the hell, man? Like they'll do it because they know the clock's ticking down and they'll try to waste some time to preserve the lead. And yeah, I can't. I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah, it's not very sportsmanlike, but like I say, it comes from that, trying to get the edge and sort of. But yeah, like, and it's a shame really, because sometimes you see a foul and the player doesn't go down, so the referee doesn't give it because he's not seen the player. He's not seen like the player go down, so the players will deliberately exaggerate the dive to get
to sell the call.
Yeah. So it's like it's a difficult one, because on one hand you have that, and the other hand it's like, well, it's not very sportsmanlike. So it's a difficult one, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What was your favorite game for
the Knicks?
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite all-time Knicks game was the 99 playoffs. So that whole 99 playoffs run was ridiculous. Look that up too on YouTube when you get a chance. So basically in the NBA, there's 8 teams that make the playoffs in each conference. The Eastern Conference, the Western Conference. That year, the Knicks made it as the 8th seed. So they were the last seed. 8th seed plays the 1 seed. And I think at that point in time, there was only one time in the history of the NBA where the 8th seed beat the 1 seed in the first round. The Knicks didn't just beat the 1 seed that year. They went all the way to the NBA Finals. So they beat the 1 seed, then they beat the 4 seed, then they beat the 2 seed, then they went to the NBA Finals. They won 3 rounds as ultimate underdogs. And they won. This is my favorite. I'm going to get to my favorite. But in the first round, they played the Miami Heat, and it was best 3 out of 5. Then the second round, third round, and the championship were best 4 to 7. It went to game 5, the final game, and the Knicks were down by 1 point with like 10 seconds left. And the guy hit a miracle shot to go in, and they beat the Miami Heat. So they were only the second team ever to do that. Then they swept their opponent, I think, in the second round, the Atlanta Hawks. And then they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. And yeah, my favorite game ever is against the Indiana Pacers, Eastern Conference Finals. I think it was game 6. And the Knicks were down 3 points with about, 7 seconds left. And you got to look at the optics of this play. It's so crazy. Obviously, you guys have probably heard of Madison Square Garden, world's most famous arena. That's the terminology. And when this guy made the shot, you see everybody stand up in unison. They have a broad shot. 20,000 people go up at the same exact time. They go crazy. But they're down 3 points. And obviously, like you were saying, you're fairly familiar with the rules. You were saying you hit 3-pointers. So the most you could score on a shot is 3 points. Mm-hmm. And he got the ball with about 7 seconds, and he went up to take the shot. He got fouled as he put it up, and he made the shot. So then he got an extra free throw on top. He made the free throw. They won the game. So he had a 4-point play, which is very rare in the NBA. You very rarely see that, especially in a game to send you to the championship. So I would say that is my favorite Knicks moment of all time.
That now I'm kind of going off on a different sport here, cricket. That was a lot like the Cricket World Cup. Was it 2019 summer?
No idea. I don't follow cricket. No,
but that's very similar, where England were playing New Zealand in the final of the Cricket World Cup. I don't follow cricket normally, but just for some reason that summer was Cricket World Cup. I felt like following it, and I did. And we won by 1 run. Do you know how cricket works roughly?
Yeah, it's kind of. I've watched highlights. It seems like it's kind of like baseball. They bounce the pitch in and they swing it with the wooden paddle.
Yeah, it's called a bat, but anyway.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom. Sorry.
I mean, no, give it in the term. But we won by 1 run, and basically, I think it was the second last ball, and one of our batsmen was running back to be in the square where you're in, basically. Otherwise, if the ball hits the wicket, you're out.
Right.
He dives with his bat, because your bat's like an extension of you. He dives to be in the square, but the ball that's coming in bounces off his bat and goes away. And then before we get an extra run, because it goes away and people don't get it back in time, we win. And it's like, that just doesn't happen. So that's a similar thing. I think I'm trying to, for the English audience, I'm trying to help with that.
Actually, I know we're not going to talk much about the Mets, but probably another play your listeners have to look up. It's called the Buckner Ball. It's probably the most famous play, not just in Mets baseball, in the history, probably in the history of baseball. World Series, which is the championship, Game 6. The Mets were down 3-2 in the series, at best 4-7, and they ended up winning Game 7. But to get there, they were down 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, nobody on base. They got 3 consecutive hits, and they got to within a run. And then Mookie Wilson came up, and it's called the Buckner Ball. And you got to see it, but he hit a slow roller up to first base, a simple play, and the ball went right through his legs. And the Mets ended up winning the game because of it. But yeah, you got to see the optics of it. It's a crazy play, the Buckner Ball. But your story kind of reminded me of that. The Mets ended up winning Game 6 and then winning the World Series in Game 7.
Fair enough.
Should I sprinkle the Aguero moment in there, Tom?
Go on.
So my team back in 2012, last day of the season, needed to win the title on goal difference. So we had the best goals scored to goals conceded ratio.
That's the tiebreaker?
Yeah, so do you want to explain that? So basically, it was between Manchester City and Manchester United for first to win the trophy, to win the league. And if you're on the same points at the end of the season, it goes to goals difference to decide the league. So
actually, as you're talking, I got another question, but I want to let you finish your story.
All right, yeah. So we're playing QPR, who are Queens Park Rangers, who are a lower league team, or lower in the league than us. And it's like, oh, we should win this match. But being a City fan, there's this saying called typical City that we always make it more difficult than it has to be. We went 1-0 up in the game, and then they came back into it 1-1, 2-1 to them. 90th minute, the game's added time of like 5 minutes or something, and then we end up scoring 2 goals in added time to win the title.
Wow.
And Manchester United were playing at the same time, weren't they? Their game finished and they won. Yeah. They thought they'd won the league because it was
they started celebrating.
Because I'm assuming even if you tied, they would have won. You needed both goals.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was like
this is a clip your viewers should look up.
Just search it, Aguero. It's like that's the commentator at the time. But yeah, it was, you couldn't write it like it was just completely baffling. I mean, I was that upset that we were 2-1 down. I went to bed and I woke up and like just after it finished, and I was like, oh, let's have a look. We've lost. And then it said we'd won. I was like, huh? Have we done that? Like it was incredible. But
wow.
Yeah, that's for me, that's probably the best moment of
I can't imagine that sounds completely okay. The most insane play ever. And then I got to ask you a soccer question. Look up the helmet catch. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Look up the helmet catch. New York Giants, 2008 Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. Helmet catch.
All right.
That is the most insane play ever on the last drive. But yeah. So my question is, because another thing I don't really like about the overtime rules in soccer is this. I hate the penalty kicks. And I don't know if you guys are fans of that or not. I remember I think it was the 98 World Cup. And like I said, I root for Italy when U.S. isn't in it. I think it was 98. Italy versus Brazil in the finals. It might have been 94. I can't remember.
Yeah, 94, I think.
Maybe it was 94.
Yeah, I think so.
And they played a whole 90-minute overtime or whatever it is. And then they went down the penalty kicks. I hate that. And hockey does the same thing in the regular season. That's another thing about hockey I can't stand. Which hockey is kind of similar to soccer, just on ice. But the thing I can't stand about hockey is the same thing. In the regular season, that's the rule. They'll play an overtime period, and then they'll have a shootout. They play like a 5-minute overtime period, and then they'll have a shootout. But in the playoffs, they don't do that. So they just do overtime. They have no shootouts. But I don't like having a game decided on shootouts. I don't like playing for 180 minutes and then saying, okay, take your 5 guys, kick it at the goalie. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that.
If you follow England in any international competition, then you will completely agree that you hate penalties because the famous one is Euro 96, where
Oh,
England had probably the greatest team, possibly one of the greatest teams since 1966 when we won the World Cup. Probably best chance of winning the Euros, which is so it's a European version of the World Cup basically, but still very, very highly regarded in that sense. And we got to the semi-finals, and I think it was our fifth penalty kick taker skied it and lost us this big chance of winning the Euros. So
yeah, I mean, it's before our time, but you know, it's still
very, very famous though.
But yeah, I think like
Actually, can I just say something about penalties? I don't mind them too much because Chelsea won the well in 2008. Chelsea, my team, had made it to their first ever Champions League final, which is the European kind of top
competition.
If you win this, you're possibly the best team in the world competition. And we got it to the final against Manchester United. You've heard them a couple of times now in 2008, and they beat us on penalties because our captain John Terry slipped as he took the penalty, and then obviously missed, but it counted because he kicked the ball technically, and so we lost because of that. And obviously we were gutted, and we thought we're never going to make it back to this point again. Oh. I was a bit too young to fully remember that, but I just remember like it being a grim day and not happy about it. My dad wasn't happy either. But then 2012, which is actually something I do remember, we got to the final again. And we were complete underdogs this season. Our team was so bad. Our manager was an ex-player who had never managed a side before. This is completely, we shouldn't even be at this stage. We beat Barcelona, who were probably the best team in the world at the time, to get there. And then we played Bayern Munich, who were probably the second best team in the world in the final at that point. And we were top 30 team probably in the world in terms of rankings. And then we went 1-0 down in the second half, and we thought, by the way, we had about 20% possession of the ball, which in football, I don't know if you know, is not very much. And we then got an equalising goal in the last few minutes. Then we had that. So we do 30 minutes extra time if at the end of the 90 minutes.
15 minutes each half, yeah.
And we held out and held out and held out. And we always thought, oh my God, they're going to score. You
intentionally went to penalty kicks because you knew that was your best shot.
I think we
yes,
basically, because it's completely chance. It's completely chance. And then probably one of my favourite players of all time, Chelsea, Didier Drogba. Our keeper saved 2 of their penalties. But so I'll go through it because I'm living it in my head right now. One of our penalty takers missed it first, so we're like, oh no, we've lost. And then our keeper makes 2 saves, and we win it at the end. So I don't have too much of a qualm with penalties because we have then obviously won the best competition in terms of football. So
yeah, there you go. I probably wouldn't have problems either with it, but
yeah,
if that was the case.
No, I mean, I think it was only 2018 when England first won a. Yeah, it was the first time we'd won a penalty shootout at the World Cup. So it shows how long it's been. Like we've never won a penalty shootout until 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever.
There was a match where the U.S. played you guys in the World Cup. I think it was 2014. And I remember you guys let up a goal. It was like a slow roller that your goalie go right by him.
Yeah.
I remember that. That's very famous.
Yeah, and I was at a bar for it, and I remember everybody was going crazy. I'm like, how the hell? I think we won 2-1. I'm like, how the hell did that guy let the ball go by him?
Yeah.
I remember that.
There was some excuses about that though, because they said that basically the ball was too round or something, and it would.
Oh, that was the year the ball was called it was at Jubilani or something, and it was the first ball to be tested by robots or technology thing, and it just moved all over the place, that ball. But it was
I remember laughing my ass off though when you guys let up that goal.
Yeah. It was like one of the themes of the World Cup that year, but it was awful.
Should we talk? Let's keep on going with the basketball. Who did you vote for NBA All-Star this season?
From the Knicks or just overall?
From the Knicks. Go on.
No, nobody. They don't deserve it. No. There's a couple of really good young players on the Knicks that I'm excited about. RJ Barrett. We drafted him 3rd overall last year. He's getting better this year. He's definitely maturing. He's improving the 3-point shot, the free throw shot. Julius Randle's actually really improved this year. He may make the All-Star game. The Knicks don't get a lot of them because they've been bad for so long, but the Knicks are actually kind of like the Giants, where coming into the year, I got moderate expectations, and they were showing growth this year. They're a young team that's showing growth, but yeah, RJ Barrett's a guy I'm really excited about. Emmanuel Quickly's a fan favorite. He's a rookie. But if there's going to be one guy from the Knicks that makes it, it'll be Julius Randle. He's having a really good year. And Knicks fans like the new head coach, Tom Thibodeau. He's a hard ass, but Knicks fans like him. In terms of overall, I mean, the best players in the league right now, in no specific order, Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James, Luka Doncic. Yeah, I mean, those are some of the names off the top of my head. Some of my favorite players that I like to watch.
Cool. Who would you say MVP is at this point?
Ooh, I'd have to look at the numbers for that. I know. You know what? Hold on one second. I'll tell you. I think my MVP is. I'm pretty sure I want to give you the accurate guy that I would say. But obviously LeBron's always in the conversation, and he's having a really good year. I thought he should have won it last year, but I know somebody's having last year. It was who the hell did win it last? I think it was Giannis. Giannis won it last year. I mean, Kevin Durant's got to be in the discussion. He's had a really great comeback year coming back from the injury. He's averaging 31 points. Bradley Beal's killing it this year. And Joel Embiid's in the conversation too, because Philadelphia's doing really well. But I'd probably right now I might go with Kevin Durant right now, but that's subject to change. I'd either go with Embiid or Durant right now.
Cool. Well, I think we spoke about a little bit before about kind of the big three in basketball, because you spoke about there being because there's wage caps in basketball, isn't there?
Yeah, salary cap. Yeah.
Yeah, but yet the best three, said to be the best three basketballers are all Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, not there. I wouldn't say they're the best three, but it's definitely three of the top. That's the thing that I can't stand about the NBA now is it's they need to contract the league. They'll never do it, but they need to get rid of teams because that's what they do now. They're all friends. There's no competitiveness, and everybody's trying to chase rings. So the best players just pair up with one another, and then going into the year, there's only like 3 or 4 teams that have a legitimate chance to win anything out of 30, and the other teams are just sitting there and they're like, whatever. I got to wait until my team gets a superstar. But yeah, the Nets. I mean, and the funny thing is, the Knicks were supposed to get Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in free agency last year, and then things spiraled out of control. The Nets ended up getting them, and now they trade for James Harden. So yeah, now they got Kevin Durant, who's top 2 or 3 player in the world, Kyrie Irving top 10, 15 player in the world, and James Harden top 5, 6, 7 player in the world. So yeah, they got the new big three for sure. But that's the NBA now. You look around, the Lakers, they got Davis and James. All the top teams have 2 or 3 superstars on them. But yeah, the Nets definitely probably have the best top 3 in basketball right now.
What do you think about that 3 and James and Davis playing each other?
I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's going to be the NBA Finals when it's all said and done. But I think the Lakers are going to win, though, because when you look at the Nets right now, yeah, they got a great top 3. But to bring in James Harden, they had to trade away all their depth. So they had their bench is like they got nobody. Their starting lineup's kind of depleted after those 3. And the Lakers, they're loaded. I mean, they have a lot of talent coming off the bench. I think the Lakers are going to go back to back. I think they'll win again.
Fair enough. Well, we've heard it here first then, haven't we?
We'll see. I could be wrong.
I looked at recent results, and you recently beat the Warriors, which was quite of an upset. I've heard. How was that for you?
Yeah, I streamed the games. I did the play-by-play for that game. I'm actually doing the play-by-play tonight, so that should be fun. Yeah, game I didn't expect to win, and obviously we dropped 3 straight after that on the West Coast. But
I saw that, yeah.
But that game, yeah, I mean that was a game I had no expectations of winning, and yeah, it's always great to go on the West Coast and beat a team like the Golden State Warriors, even though they're not the same team. Klay Thompson's hurt, they lost Kevin Durant, but they're still good. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Steve Kerr's a great head coach. But yeah, the Knicks were great that night; they couldn't miss. So yeah, it's always good to beat a good team like that. We've actually beaten a lot of good teams this year. We beat the Bucks, who's one of the best teams in basketball. We beat the Pacers in Indiana, who's one of the top maybe 7 or 8 teams in the league. We beat Utah the first time. They're really good. I think they're like 13-4. So the Knicks that's the encouraging thing. Even though we're only 8-11, we've played a really challenging schedule, and we went into this year with like no expectations. We just want to see growth. and we've held our own against some of the best teams in the sport so far this year.
Cool. I'm going to have to read this word for word because I don't understand what it means. So here we go. Thoughts on LaMelo Ball winning his first triple-double at 19 years old, the youngest player?
Yeah. Okay. So basically what a triple.
You smashed it. Don't worry.
So no, basically what a triple double is when you get double digits in 3 different categories or statistical categories. Well, so points, assists, and rebounds. So he got double digits in all 3. So he got over 10 rebounds, over 10 assists, and 10 points in the same game. That guy's a hell of a player. I think he's gonna be a hell of a player. I was hoping the Knicks would get the first pick this year. Of course they didn't because we never get lucky. But and that's another thing, the NBA that I do not like that they do. Well, I like it and I don't like it at the same time. If the Knicks got lucky, I would like it, but they never get lucky. But basically what the NBA does because it's a sport where one player could impact it so much, unlike a sport like football or even baseball, because it's only a 12-man roster and you get a player like LeBron James on your team. He turns you from a 21 team to a 51 team overnight. So to prevent teams from tanking, which is intentionally losing, so they'll try to get the first pick, they instituted a lottery system. So if you miss the playoffs, the bottom, I think 14 teams miss the playoffs. They go into a lottery pool. And if you finish with the worst record, you get a little bit better of a chance than a team that finished with the 14th worst record. But you have a legitimate chance to get the first pick if you finish between 1 and 14. And the Knicks never win the lottery. So, but yeah, that's the thing I don't like. But I understand why they do it, to try to take away from tanking. But as far as LaMelo Ball goes, guy's going to be great. You watch that guy play, he's got a lot of talent. His brother, Lonzo, has been a disappointment. He was the 2nd overall pick by the Lakers like 4 or 5 years ago. But his brother, LaMelo, is much better. He's a much more complete basketball player. And I did not know that stat. So the youngest player ever to get a triple-double, I did not know that. But I'm sure he's going to get a lot more.
Yeah, I found that I was speaking to my mates last night before to do some research before this podcast. And also, recently, didn't Curry become the 2nd highest 3 points made at 27?
Steph Curry has changed the game of basketball. That guy, he's the greatest shooter I've ever seen, and it's not even close. But going back to what I said about the 90s era, and it's why I always say you can't, like people in the younger generation, they always want to say LeBron James is the GOAT. LeBron James is the greatest ever. Well, put Michael Jordan in this era. Probably a lot better. So it's hard to compare eras, but if you put Steph Curry in that 90s era, where I was saying you could hand check, you could get rougher on defense, he's not doing what he does now. He's just not. He's 6'2", 6'3". They would run him into the ground. But in today's era, with the new rules, players like Steph Curry are the future. You want guys that could stretch the floor and could shoot it from 35, 40 feet on a whim, and he's by far the greatest shooter I've ever seen in the NBA. He's incredible. What he's able to do, how he's able to create separation with his dribbling skills and everything else. He's one of my favorite players to watch, and yeah, he's incredible.
I think that's all we had really on the Knicks baseball. Is there anything you want to talk about before we move on to maybe the Mets?
Anything I want to talk. I mean, we talked a lot about soccer. We talked a bit about. Here's my question: how'd you guys find my channel?
I was just kind of searching for American sports channels, and I saw you had quite a decent amount of subs, and I thought, you know what, might as well give them a message on Twitter, and you replied, which is amazing.
No, I was just curious. I wonder if maybe one of your subscribers was a subscriber of mine or something like that.
I know of, but what was I going to say? I've been asked to do because we've had two comic book American channels on in the past. Yeah. We've spoken to them about like American sports a little bit.
One of them's a Bills fan, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I've kind of had some chats with people in person. They were like, maybe it could be good to get like an American sports channel on, because obviously we do mostly just do American sports, mostly football, obviously, and then we've done one rugby podcast and one F1, 4 F1 podcasts, because that's Ben's passion, a little bit of F1. But yeah, no, I was just doing some research, and she's replying.
Well, anytime, I always like to work with everybody. Whenever anybody ever reaches out, but F1 is actually gaining popularity here too. I don't watch it, but that's actually gaining a lot of popularity here too. NASCAR I never got into.
Yeah.
And I don't understand NASCAR. You drive around in a circle for 500 laps. I do that every time I go to work.
No.
But F1's a little bit more exciting, it seems. But I haven't gotten into it.
Yeah, F1. There's a bit more to it than NASCAR. Like they actually have to like go around corners and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to sell it anymore, Ben?
But I mean, I like it. It doesn't mean like I just I'm into it because of my dad, basically. Same reason why I support City is because of my dad. So yeah, that I like the I mean, it's a lot more. There's like a romanticism with like the historic F1 stuff. So that's what first gets you into it, and then you're like, oh, I'll have a look at current stuff and like that. So yeah.
It seems like it's growing in popularity here.
Yeah.
I see more and more people talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in terms of who wins the title, it's not as exciting recently, but the like individual races are quite exciting, or they were last year anyway. So yeah.
I've got a question for you, Chris, which Ben just made me think of. In terms of who you support, is it a family thing? Because I think in England it is quite a lot of a family thing. Because obviously my dad supports Chelsea, Ben's dad supports Manchester City, and we obviously support the same club. Is it a big thing? And like, as a family, normally will support one team.
Yeah, that's generally how it works. You know, you usually when you grow up, you root for the team your dad rooted for. Generally, not the case with me, but most people. I tend to try to root for the underdog. That's just in my nature. Even though the Giants aren't the underdog in New York, it's the Jets. I fell in love with Eli Manning as a kid, but with baseball, it's why I picked the Mets. I mean, I always said to myself, like even if you don't follow baseball, you know the Yankees. Like the Yankees are the most prestigious team probably in the history of sports. 27 World Series, and I always found it boring. Like I was always like, I don't want to root for the Empire. I don't want to root for the team that spends more money than everybody else and always wins. So that's kind of why I fell in love with the Mets. And the Mets have like this miracle history, and they're like the ultimate underdog because they share a city with the Yankees. And even though the Mets aren't nearly as bad as some other baseball teams in terms of historical, they're viewed as like this laughable franchise because they share the same city as the Yankees. And Met fans are in my opinion, of the three teams I root for, they are the most loyal, they're the most passionate, they're the most knowledgeable. Because to be a Met fan, you have to really care about your team. To be in the same city as the New York Yankees, and you know, you think back of their history, like you talk about falling in love with the history. The Mets came in 1962. And the Dodgers and the Giants. Baseball used to be New York used to be a three-team town. It used to be the Yankees, the New York Giants baseball team, which is why they were called the New York Football Giants, because back then you had a New York Giants baseball team, and the Brooklyn Dodgers. Dodgers then moved to LA. And in 1960, baseball, they both sold. They both went to LA. The Dodgers were orange. The Dodgers were blue, rather. The Giants were orange. They both went to Los Angeles. And there's two different leagues in baseball, National League, American League. And all the National League fans were pissed because they didn't want to root for the Yankees. They hated the Yankees. And then the Mets came around in 62, and the Mets adopted both colors. They took the Giants colors that were orange. They took the Dodgers colors that were blue. And from 62 to 1968, the first 7 years of baseball, the Mets had the worst record, not just in the division, in all of baseball. They still, to this day, hold the worst record in the history of the sport for a single season. In their initial year in 1962, they won 42 games. They went like 40, because in baseball they play 162 games. They went 42 and 120, which is by far the worst record in the history of the sport. So from 62 to 68, I think at 68 they got a little bit better. They went from the worst to like the second worst record in all the sports. And then in 69, they won the championship. So they went from the worst for the first 7 years to winning the championship. They were called the Miracle Mets. And then same thing with 86. Like I was saying, look up the Buckner Ball. But that's what I fell in love with. I fell in love with that underdog, that magical Mets mentality. And that's why I fell in love with them. No, not so much for family, but most people fall in love because of family. Yeah.
You kind of answered my first question about the Mets just there anyway. So I'll ask you this. I don't know how much you know about it, but the Mets have fired their general manager for sending explicit pictures to a female reporter.
Oh, I know about it. I know.
How do you feel about
that? He wasn't here for long. The Mets actually got a new owner, Steve Cohen, who's now, I'm assuming you guys have heard about the whole stock market thing with GameStop and
yes, yeah.
So he's being yelled at for that. He did something with that. He's like this billionaire. I don't know what's going on with that, but he bought the Mets team. And to put it in perspective, like we were talking about earlier, and why Met fans have a lot of hope going into this year, baseball, like we were saying, is a capitalistic sport. There's no salary cap. You can spend what you need to spend. He's worth $14 billion. The next closest owner is worth, if you combine the three richest owners in baseball outside of him, they're not worth what he's worth. I think the richest is worth like $4 billion. So when the Mets brought in Steve Cohen, everybody's ecstatic. They're like, the Mets are finally going to overtake New York. They're going to be better than the Yankees. And now we start to get this happening. They bring in the new general manager, and now he got fired because he showed his penis. But I don't read too much into that because he was only here for like 3 weeks actually before that happened. So it's not that big of a deal, but it's embarrassing for the franchise because the Mets will Met. That's what people say. Whenever things are starting to look good, something happens, and that's why people laugh at us. So it would only happen to the New York Mets. And the year before, the Mets hired Carlos Beltran to be the manager. Carlos Beltran is a former great player for the Mets. He was going to make the Hall of Fame before what came out in 2019 did. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It was a big national story. Even if you don't follow baseball, the cheating scandal with the Astros. So Beltran got caught for that 2 weeks after the Mets hired him as the manager. In 2019, he was involved in that, and the Mets had to fire him. So this is now like 2 years. The Mets have had, controversy with the manager and now the general manager right after they take the job.
not good then.
No,
yeah.
Bit unlucky.
Yeah.
What did you say? Yeah. Do you remember your first Mets game?
My first Met, I was like 2, but my first, what made me a diehard Mets fan, I was like a casual fan up until like 12. I went to the Subway Series in 1999 between the Mets and the Yankees, and it was just a regular season game, but the Mets were just starting to get good. They had traded for Mike Piazza, who's only the second Mets player ever to make the Hall of Fame, greatest hitting catcher of all time, and they traded for him. They were playing the Yankees, and to this day, it's the greatest game I've ever been to. It was back and forth the entire game. The Mets ended up winning 9-8, but they were down 1 run going into the 9th inning, and the Yankees had Mariano Rivera on the mound, who is the greatest relief pitcher in the history of baseball. And basically what a relief pitcher is, he only pitches 1 inning. He comes in the last inning, and it's his job to close out the game. He's the closer. And Rivera, up until that point, had not blown a save for over, I think, a year and a half. Like, he was that dominant. And the Mets ended up scoring 2 runs in the 9th to beat him. And everybody was going crazy. So that's always my favorite Met moment. I felt like the stadium rocking. And that's really what made me a real diehard Mets fan.
That answers my next question. I was going to ask what your favorite game was, and that might be it.
There's a lot of great ones, but in terms of one that I went to, would be that. But there's so much. I mean, one historical, obviously 9/11 was impacted everybody, but especially in New York. And sports were halted for about 10 days after the fact. And the first New York team to play at home, I think it was the Mets. And they were playing their arch rivals, the Atlanta Braves, on like September 21st, maybe. And Mike Piazza, the guy I just told you, the bottom of the 9th inning, I think it was, the Mets were down by a couple of runs. He had a walk-off home run. And that's like everybody was in tears, and because it took people's minds off of the event. And brought a smile to people's faces. So that's probably my favorite Mets moment that I've seen like on TV.
Oh, that's really lovely, actually. We normally now ask kind of YouTuber-based questions. Have you ever been like kind of, I guess, interviewed about your YouTube career so far?
Yeah, most of the time when I go on a podcast, people ask me, why I started and how I grew, and the funny thing about it, I've actually met people in person now that recognize me. It doesn't happen all the time, but like I'm scared every time I go out walk my dog. Once in a while, you're the Giants guy. You're the Giants guy, and yeah, so I get recognized a little bit, which is cool. But I'm maybe gonna ask me why I started my channel and stuff like that. yeah, I always, people always ask me like, what's your advice for YouTube and blah, 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 blah. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, don't bother. Because people are going to know, people are going to be able to tell, people are going to see right through it. And I broke up with my ex-girlfriend at the time, like 2.5 years ago. And I was just looking to get my mind off of it. And I just came on YouTube for fun, really to make people laugh. At that point in time, my channel was at a completely different direction than it is now. I was just looking to get my mind off things and laugh and whatever. And then I quickly realized that people actually come to YouTube for my sports opinion. And I took it a lot more seriously. And yeah, it's blown up. Not, I don't even want to use the word blown up, but it's grown ever since then. And yeah, I fell in love with it, and I quickly realized I want to try to do this full time. So I put in a lot of work on my YouTube channel.
Cool.
That's probably going to answer a couple of the questions we had for you, but that's all good. You probably will have heard some of these questions before then, but why not ask them again, I guess. Well, I think you actually just answered this question. I was going to say, what event or person inspired you to get into YouTube? I guess it was taking your mind off of your ex.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of YouTubers I watched that I guess inspired me, but yeah, it was just for fun. It was actually the event. Funny thing, the event that like I'm in a group text with my friends, and I would send like videos, like as a joke, like a funny video impersonating like an athlete or whatever. And they're like, you're pretty funny. You're pretty good on camera. You should start a YouTube channel. So that, I guess that's what nudged me. But I was just trying to get a hobby.
Fair enough.
Is this your first channel, or have you had others in the past?
No, it's my only channel. Yeah, I'm actually in the process of starting a new channel, a Mets only channel. Okay. And I have so many ideas. Like I've thought about starting a channel where I talk about things other than sports, like current events and stuff like that. A sports card channel. I don't know if that's big where you guys are. I collect sports cards. I've thought about starting a channel doing that. But yeah, this is the first channel I ever did. Yeah, no failed channels before it.
Cool.
Yeah, me neither.
Is that a joke, or you had other channels?
I've had other channels, yeah. Yeah. No, I've kind of done YouTube on and off since I was 14, just trying stuff, and kind of fell on this last June 2020.
Yeah. Like in fairness, he started quite young, but yeah.
How many subscribers you guys have?
I don't even know.
680, I think.
Okay, so you're growing.
Yeah.
The hardest is your first 1,000. Once you and people always ask me what's you got to be consistent. You got both with your opinion and your uploads. You got, I upload. I try to upload almost every day. Sometimes you don't want to force it either. But yeah, and the other thing is, don't say what the people want to hear. Say what you feel. At least from my perspective. Because there's times I know my opinion, 85-90% of the fan base is going to hate me for it. They're not going to agree with me, but they know that they're getting my true opinion. Yeah. Sometimes when I watch certain YouTubers, I'll watch them and I'll be like, that guy's full of shit. That guy's just saying that because he knows that that's the popular opinion. That's what the fans want to hear, but it's not the right opinion. So that's the other thing. Don't let the fan base influence what you're going to say. Come out and say what you really truly feel.
Well, yeah. Well, we upload kind of like an interview kind of podcast like this every Thursday, and then we also have a show we started in the new year with two more of our mates, which we now do every Sunday. And I think this will be out on Tuesday. So we'll do 4 podcasts in the space of a week, which is
wow.
We've done before, which is
you guys are working hard. You guys are working hard. That's good.
Yeah. Working hard, yeah. Even though I'm going to be studying.
We're thinking of doing like you say, this like something like this Thursday, that show Sunday, and then something Tuesday. So it's like every few days or whatever.
How did you guys meet?
Do you want to explain that, shall I?
I mean, I can explain my side of it. Basically,
you do 2 sides of the story.
Yeah, my friend from school goes to the same university as Tom.
Okay.
So we've only met each other once in real life.
Yeah, we've only met once in real life. It should be twice, hopefully.
Yeah. So
soonish.
Yeah. But yeah.
How's the because I'm thinking about how you guys have only met once. How's the virus with you guys? Is it getting better over there or what?
Yeah, really bad. I think it's actually we've had our worst.
It's the worst it's been.
Well, I don't know if it's worse than in America because obviously you're a bigger country, but we had our worst deaths recently, and the infections are.
Like we're back in lockdown because it was worse than the first lockdown. So
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
man.
it's 'cause
Yeah,
of
no,
the-
it's the same thing here. It's bad. What is that?
You hear about the new strain we have?
I
Yeah.
heard that there was a worse virus or something that came out. It's more contagious.
Like, there's like two new strains or something, like one from South Africa and one from somewhere else. But apparently the vaccine still covers it, so it's just about rolling out the vaccine. But like you say, infections are up, so they've got to think about making the lockdown a bit stricter, I think, or something. So
Yeah, because it spreads a lot easier, this version of the COVID virus, unfortunately.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
miss. What is that?
No, you go on.
No, I'm just saying because you got me thinking because you guys talk sports and you haven't met. I was thinking about not being able to go to sporting events because of it. So yeah.
Go on.
I was just going to say I don't go to City every week, but I go with my dad like a few times a season, and I've missed it. I've really missed it. Like going to like a Champions League match, the European competition, like an evening match, at night under the floodlights. So, but miss it. But
you take it for granted. You take it for granted.
Yeah, no, I remember. So where I went to university in Swansea, and in my first year there, Swansea played Ben's team, Manchester City, in the FA Cup, which is like a domestic cup competition. And obviously we got student discount tickets and we got to go. That was great. And again, this season, Swansea in the FA Cup playing Manchester City.
Yeah.
I can't go to watch that game, which is really disappointing. But we're hoping to do our first The Blue podcast live at some point in the future.
Live, you got to go live. Live is important.
Oh no, not live. I mean, in person. Sorry.
In person.
We have done a live show recently because the manager of Tom's team got sacked recently. So
we're thinking of doing like live streams whenever there's a big news
event. Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's kind of, if we did a live stream for every game, it would be slightly tedious because it'd be the same thing every week. Whereas if we're doing these podcasts with interviews and different stuff, it's slightly more entertaining, hopefully. What is your favorite type of video to do then, if you had to pick?
Where I could get creative, creativity videos. Because a lot of my videos are just reporting on the news and obviously give my opinion on it. But when something happens, like you said, but I like videos where I get to take where it has nothing to do with the news. I get to be creative. Like I'll do a video on what I would do if I was the general manager. What free agents I would sign, what things like that. I like when I get to be creative. I think they're more tedious. It takes more work. News videos are quick. They're easy. You report on the news. You give the people your opinion, and those are the ones that usually get the most views, but they take the least amount of work. But I like the ones where I get to be more creative.
What would you say your favorite video of all time is then?
Well, my reaction to Daniel Jones getting drafted blew up. That definitely helped my channel grow. My channel was growing before that, but I was pissed. So that I was cursing. I don't curse on my channel. I was cursing that day. So that was probably my most famous video. Like a lot of times I'll get subscribers. They'll be like, "You're the Daniel Jones guy. You're the guy that." But I love I can't point to one specific video. I just look to improve every day. And, just try to come up. That's the most challenging thing about, especially when you cover really just one team. I do the play-by-play. I love doing the play-by-play. I think I'm really good at it, especially with basketball. And a lot of people love that. My football play-by-plays have gotten really big. We have, when the Giants play, I have like 4,000 people in there at once. So people love that. Those are a lot of fun. But the play-by-plays are a lot of fun. I love doing those in terms of the live streams. But I can't really point to one individual video, but I guess the one that it got like 1 million views was the Daniel Jones reaction video. not on my channel, but like people that copied it and put it on theirs, and some of them got like 30 million views, like it blew up. Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, you've spoken about sort of being creative and then the play-by-plays. Would you say, which would you say that being creative or the play-by-plays are your favorite thing about doing YouTube?
I think, you know what's funny is people ask me what's the right way to build a channel. I always think it's better to build it through videos than live streams, because I feel like with videos, you gain more loyal subscribers. You need both. And because I know there's some of my subscribers that only come to me for my play-by-plays. They don't really care about my other content. And then my video subscribers come to me just for my videos. It's almost like you have two different types of subscribers. But I get amped up for the play-by-plays, even when there's only 200-300 people in there. Like the Knicks games, I don't get a ton because they're not that good. But I think I enjoy the play-by-plays the most. They're fun. You get to talk with your subscribers. You get to have some fun. And yeah, those are starting to grow a lot on YouTube because, especially with the Giants, you have a lot of fans from where you guys are from. They can't see the games. So I'm their eyes and ears, and I can't show the game, but they love it, man. The energy that I bring and describing the game, and it's a lot of fun. You get to talk with, thousands of other fans at the same time about the game as it's happening. I think I like that the most. I think that's my favorite thing to do on YouTube.
Fair enough. But I think that's something we actually quite enjoyed when we did our first live stream. We were quite surprised with the amount of kind of people in the comments chatting to us, which was quite nice.
Yeah, it's cool to get to talk with so many fans at the same time.
Yeah, no, definitely. If you had to look back at your kind of YouTube career so far, would there be anything you'd change or do slightly differently?
It's a great question. Because I think about, I think I would. If I could go back in time, I think I would have built my team more around broad football rather than just Giants centric. But I do think because I did specifically the Giants, it helped me build because it was a niche. And I think it's harder to build and build a loyal subscriber base if you do broad. But if you build broad, I think you have a much higher ceiling in terms of your growth. With the Giants, there's only so many people that are going to come to YouTube to get Giants news, and I do well. I'm not complaining. I get, between 8,000 and 12,000 views on a video if it's a good topic. But I feel like there's higher growth potential if you do broad football news, and that's kind of the challenge that I'm trying to do now. Now that I've built up a base, I'm trying to sprinkle in broad news, and even though the views don't do nearly as well, I'll get like 3,000 views on a broad football video as opposed to a Giants one where I'll get 10 to 12,000. But if I could go back in time, I would have tried to build up both at the same time.
Cool. So I guess would you say that would be one of your future goals of your channel to sort of broaden the scope of it?
Yeah, I'm always thinking of ways to improve and grow, and that's my challenge next year. Is that the thing is, I think as the Giants get good, it's going to help me grow broad, because when the Giants are bad, like and they've been since I've been on YouTube. I'll try to do like broad topic videos, and at the beginning of the year they'll tune in because the Giants fans want to know. Like I'll do a power rankings video. I'll rank all 32 teams. The Giants fans will want to know where are we going to be ranked going into the year. But as the Giants start to fall off, fans don't care anymore. They're like, we're going to be ranked 29th. I don't care what Chris ranks all the other teams. So I think as the Giants improve, it's going to help my broad audience grow, because you need those initial viewers. You need your subscribers to watch your broad content, and it has to be affiliated to the Giants. But I think that'll help me grow. But yeah, that's definitely my biggest goal going into next year, is to try to be able to do broad content in addition to my Giants content and build a base. And it's not easy when people expect Giants content on your page, because you don't want to abandon them. But you also, you got to think long term and try to grow in other areas.
True.
Fair enough. That's good goals to have, to be honest. But that is everything we have planned for this podcast, mate. Thank you for coming on. Is there anything you want to ask us before we start wrapping things up?
No, man. I just want to say, man, I had a blast, man. I don't know how you found my channel, just randomly. I guess you were typing in American sports, but I'm glad that you stumbled upon it. It was a great conversation, and I hope you guys keep doing what you're doing over here, and hopefully your listeners enjoy what they listen to. If you guys are interested in learning more about the New York Giants and football, and come on over, have some fun, and I'll be live tonight. You want to watch the Knicks game? But thank you guys for having me on, man. It was good. I had a good time.
Is there anything you want to? Oh, Ben's gone for a second. But is there anything you want to shout out before we go as well?
No, I mean, you can find me in the Entertainah Talkin Sports. I think you said the link was in the description. So, I mean, I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. And if you don't, I'm not going to shout it out, but if you come to my channel, you'll see it. And I try to have fun, but at the same time, try to take it a bit more serious.
Fair enough. Ben's
he's back. He's back.
Just as we wrap it up, his laptop must have died. Well, thank you, Ben. Is he in?
There he is. He's back. He's back.
It's not flipping.
What's up, man?
Right. I was just gonna say, I think I'm gonna watch the Super Bowl now.
Yeah, watch. I'm gonna tell you what, man. This year's Super Bowl, if you're ever gonna watch one, this is the one to do it. You got Tom Brady. He's won 6. He's been to 9. He's known as the greatest quarterback who ever lived. He's in all of them. But then you got Pat Mahomes, who's like the future Tom Brady. Like, he won the Super Bowl last year. He's incredibly talented. I don't think there's ever been a more high-profile quarterback matchup in the history of the sport. So if you were going to watch one, this would be the one.
Well, that's you heard it from Chris first. We'll definitely be watching the Super Bowl. Maybe even drop you a message saying, seeing how it goes. Well, thank you for coming on, Chris. Pleasure. Happy to have you on again in the future. That was a really interesting chat. Ben, anything else before we finish off?
No.
Brilliant. Well, hope you guys enjoyed. Do check out Chris. As I said, his link will be in the description. If you want any more New York Giants stuff, any New York sports, by the sounds of things, then do check him out. If you enjoyed the video, do give it a like. And if you are new around here, please hit that subscribe button. We are slowly creeping towards that 700 subscriber mark, and we would greatly appreciate it. Well,
subscribe.
We'll see you guys on Thursday, and goodbye.